I did actually look up how to write "check us out in the second half" in reverse, and that is actually how you would spell it. So
Yeah, good for you. I'm proud of you.
yeah, I went the extra mile because this show deserves it.
Okay. I'm glad you're recording. I'm gonna use that as the little offhand like B-side that leads into the show.
Brilliant.
Well, good evening, ladies and joyums. You're listening to the Drunken UX Podcast. Okay, wait. I don't know what just happened there. I either went from like a weird Bugsy Malone thing to a weird Australian thing all in the course of one line, and
Good
I
night,
don't
mate.
know what happened.
Put a little more UX on your website, eh?
Damn. Okay. At any rate, I am your host, Michael Feenan, and you are listening to the Drunken UX Podcast. You're listening to episode number 15 of the podcast. I am proud of that. That means this is week 30 without missing an episode.
That's amazing.
I am shocked, Aaron, that you have not begged me for a vacation as of yet.
Yeah.
It's
good. Would it be a paid vacation?
He says apprehensively.
Well, if you're enjoying our bad Australian stuff or the content here, be sure to connect with us on Twitter and Facebook /DrunkenUX, and also on drunkenux.com/Slack to get part of you can share your favorite GIFs with us, or emoji, or whatever you like to do. If you have a favorite emoticon, we'd like to see it.
Emoticon. Good lord, what year is it, man?
Emoji is the new thing. I'm actually reading the Emoji Code. Yes, it's a book all about emoji used as communication tools, which is there's a lot of callbacks to my internet memes presentation that I did at
A whole lot better than watching the Emoji Movie, I guess. When do we get emoji cons?
My gosh.
When does that become a thing?
What? So, Michael, I've got a special drink tonight, but I want to hear what you're drinking first.
I have a special drink tonight.
This is great.
How do we both have special drinks tonight? How does that happen?
I think, last episode, Greg Pudanovich told us that he thought the quintessential Drunken UX drink would be the James Bond Vesper Martini, and I went out and I got some Tanqueray and some vodka and some Lillet Blanc, and I made my very first Vesper Martini tonight, which is what I'm drinking, and it's very potent. That's all I'm gonna say.
I would say I'm doing the same thing. I tried to do the same thing, but us, backwater Kansas folk, there is no Lillet in this entire town, I have discovered. So I am substituting in some sweet vermouth, and it's still a martini. It's still a gin and vodka martini. It's just not maybe as perfect. I'm also I'm drinking out of a lowball glass here because I discovered I have wine glasses, but I don't have a martini glass. So
I don't have any up glasses I don't have any up glass martini glasses, at least.
I kind of figured drinking it out of a wine glass just seemed awfully pretentious. So
yeah. I like the bottom on this little too.
And I've adjusted. I'm on number 2 now, and I am not a big gin guy. And I went ahead and I don't drink a lot of martinis either. So I went straight with the first one, 3-to-1 ratio. Too much gin. I adjusted for this one, and I just took it to 2 and 2. Perfect.
Much better.
Beautiful.
Cool.
So yeah, there's only this is gonna be 8 ounces of pure liquor. So we're gonna keep this episode a little concise this evening, but it's gonna be fun. We're gonna be talking about managing your WordPress sites. And when I say that, I mean managing lots of WordPress sites, not just one. Before that, it is currently July 18th. That may or may not be true when you listen to this, which I think is what is going to be the 23rd, if my calendar brain is right. But what just happened was on Monday, Amazon had Prime Day.
I remember that.
The celebration of your Prime membership costs going up.
What?
Yeah,
That's a terrible price.
Didn't they? They've raised the price by what, $20, wasn't it? I think.
Didn't they extend it? Didn't they extend Prime Day an extra day? I did hear that.
Yeah, well, an extra day something ish. What they did was they put out this announcement that they said, "Hey, we're going to extend some of the deals. I guess an extra day." It sounds like there's a banner on their site where you can see, like, click through, and you can still go in and get the deals as of today. By the time you hear this episode, no way. But what happened was, and I noticed this, and I thought, well, I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I thought maybe it's just me. It's not. The reason they chose to extend some of these deals was because apparently so many people were rushing Amazon's website at the 9th hour when that deal launched, that the website went down.
What?
Not like, and when we say it went down, Amazon doesn't really go down, right? Like, I don't know if that's a thing, but it definitely was broken.
Okay.
That's what I would call it.
Like less responsive?
Yeah, well,
and not like in a CSS way, but like a request response.
Like in a shopping cart mysteriously emptying itself out.
Oh my god, really?
Oh, yeah, no, I had a whole cart that just said, "We're gone. Have fun." You can, and like adding stuff back in, I would add it in, I'd go back in, it'd be gone, I'd add it again, I'd come back, there'd be 3 of them. It was bizarre.
Holy crap.
And trying to get to items led you to their fancy 404 page with the puppies.
Okay.
All over them. Like, it was just like a sea of puppies for me for the first hour. Which a lot of folks were running into this.
Wow.
It's ironic, to say the least.
They should really consider hosting with a service like AWS.
That's,
which has better uptime.
They need something that can give them some robustness, don't they?
Yeah.
That's the failure to plan, I guess.
Using a shared hosting or something? What are they using for Amazon?
It's funny, though, right? Because out of anybody, you would expect Amazon to be, like, bulletproof, given their back-end infrastructure.
I would expect Netflix. What they need is Netflix's Chaos Monkey. That's what they need.
Yeah.
Just run around and just randomly empty people's carts and other things.
Randomly empty people's carts, not just, like, test carts. Oh, you lost your shit. Okay, sorry. Have fun.
You didn't need those coloring pencils.
It is a weird lesson, though, and I mean, I get it. They had probably millions of people trying to get on the site all at once, and any surge in traffic is going to tax the horizontal scaling of an application, because you need places for all of those people to connect to, and you only need it for that little chunk of time, because an hour later that traffic will have dropped in half. And while the sustained traffic for the next couple days would be certainly higher than normal, it wouldn't be near that spike. And I think you're probably familiar with the Slashdot effect, right?
Yeah, the hug of death.
Yeah.
The Reddit hug of death.
The Reddit hug of death, yeah. Anytime you make it to the front page of something, and you're just a little old guy writing an article, or even, I've seen it with university sites. And
we had that happen at Cornell one time.
Yeah, I mean, anybody is susceptible to it. That spike in traffic, every one of those connections needs somewhere to land. It needs a little bit of memory. It needs a little bit of CPU. And damned if it's not going to hurt you when 20,000 people all want to see your stuff at once.
The kicker about that, too, is that, I mean, unless you're using a service like AWS, which can automatically scale, which Amazon should have considered using this. If you're not expecting that, it can really suck, because if my traffic is typical like this, you're responsible, you do your analytics, you maybe even add a little bit of padding for some growth, etc. Like getting a sudden deluge of traffic just shuts your site down, and like, what are you supposed to do about that? Like, you can't.
Do you use Woot?
A long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, so Woot is owned by Amazon now.
I'm not surprised.
Do you remember, like, the way people freaked out about the bag of crap?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
it was like 6-7 years ago or something, or a decade ago.
well, I mean, they still do it to this day. And
Mm.
for the folks at home, Woot, it's woot.com, WOOT, and they are a sales site. They have an item a day. And at this point, they have now expanded to like sports.woot.com and electronics.woot.com. So they've got like some silos they've built out.
Okay.
But they still, their business model is basically sell one product a day for a good price. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue whether or not the deals are good anymore since Amazon took over. That's not the point. Back in the day, back before anybody owned Woot, they would do this thing called the bag of crap. And for like $5 or $10 or whatever, you would literally go to their site and all you knew was you were buying literally a bag of crap.
Okay.
You would get 3 items and a bag, and that was all you were guaranteed to get. And you paid $10 for it or $5 for it and $5 shipping, and they sent it to you. And it was fun. It was, and people have gotten real into those mystery boxes,
Yeah.
It had that sort of mentality to it that it's like, I'm probably going to get some silly crap, but I kid you not, one of the best things I got out of a bag of crap was a pair of those, and this was back in the older iPhone days, so like I had an iPhone 3G, to give you an idea of when this was, but I got a pair of those glasses that you can connect to the phone and put on, that had the little screens in the front.
Whoa.
So that if you were sitting on a plane, you could play a movie on your phone, put the glasses on, and it would project in front of you like a TV.
You got through like $10 or something?
And yeah, there was like a almost $200 pair of video glasses. And
it's amazing.
Did they make me look like a damn goober on a plane? You're right. They absolutely did. Did I wear them? Hell yes, I did. I could put my earbuds in on it. I could put the glasses on, lean my head back, and I didn't have to worry about a thing on that plane. So there was always this chance of getting something good. Anyway, I divergitate. The point is, when they would sell the bag of crap, their site would go down. Period.
Right.
30 seconds, 1 minute in, the site is crippled, and you're sitting there F5, 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 F5 because that helps. And the servers just couldn't handle that rush because the bag of crap became like it was a thing, it was the thing everybody hoped for to see pop up in that little brief window. Amazon took over. They're still doing that.
Yeah.
And it's still fun. It's still a fun thing to do if you get a chance. They still go down. And in my head, I'm like, okay, I get it. Yes, it is a huge spike in traffic. But like the spike Woot is getting at that point is nowhere near a spike that Amazon would get on something.
Woot should also consider using AWS.
They're running on the same infrastructure now. I don't understand why that's a problem for them, I guess. Especially when it's coming. They know they're going to be selling that. So it's like, let's warm up all of our all of our nodes and let's get them ready. I don't know.
Is this the thing like the cobbler's shoes are always worn out, the web developer's website always looks shitty. Like Amazon owns AWS, but their own site is just phone in the DevOps.
What part of me thinks about it is, the phrase artificial scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
That, something is exclusive and expensive because there are only a few of them available, even though there's no reason for that, except for the vendor to restrict it. What are those, the purses that everybody wants? It's an L name, I think. I can't think of it now. There's a purse that's like this. There was an episode of like Planet Money or something that covered it. Same deal though. Like they only make like 5 of them a year, and they charge $15,000 to $60,000 for this purse. And people have looked at them and they're like, it's not really. I mean, it's a cool purse, but it's not like there's not $60,000 in material and labor here. But it's expensive because it's exclusive. And I part of me wonders, like with Woot, if part of that isn't maybe a little artificial in that they want you to believe everybody is fighting for this, and it's stupid.
There's a program flow control somewhere in their software. It's like you hit a certain number of requests. It's like, okay, let's simulate outage.
It's I don't know. And that's maybe a little conspiracy theory-ish of me, but I don't think it's also completely Birkin bag. That's the name. I knew it would come to me. Birkins are the bags.
I'm thinking of Belkin.
Not Belkin bags. Those, nobody is fighting over those.
Birkin.
People are trying to give those away. At any rate, let us know. Did you get something on Prime Day? I'm interested. Tell us what you bought.
Yeah.
I got a couple.
Or did you get anything
games.
on Woot? If you ever bought anything on Woot.
Or if you bought anything on Woot.
I got a Bluetooth headset at one point.
I'm looking around. I don't know if I've got anything on my desk right now from Woot, but I've got I've got a Roomba. And I know people hate Roombas, but for my house, it actually works very well. Super handy, and it works. It works very, very well. So
yeah. Do you remember? Speaking of Woot, do you remember Half.com?
Yeah.
Before eBay bought them.
Everybody buys everybody, man.
I know. Half.com was great. I got so many back in like the early 2000s. I got a bunch of books that like I couldn't find in bookstores, and like some old video games for really cheap, and it was great. I really love that site. And then after eBay got them, it just got shitty. Yeah.
They lose they lose their who they are, their identity.
Yeah.
It gets absorbed into corporate culture. That's why people get upset about things like Nest, getting bought by Google, even though Nest is pissed off that they're owned by Google now, apparently. I don't know. Today, WordPress. Let's talk a little bit about WordPress.
WP Campus just happened. Did you happen to go to that? I wasn't there.
I was not there this year. I was last year.
Okay.
It is, and if anybody is interested, it is a higher ed focused event, but it is a fork of WordCamp.
Oh.
It is a version of that, but it's just specifically higher ed focused. So if you're not higher ed, look for a WordCamp near you, but it's a fantastic event. When I was there last year, I was talking about Tag Manager up in New York, Rochester, one of those places.
That's right. I heard there was a lot of talk about Gutenberg. Well, like a lot of talk.
Oh, I'm sure, Gutenberg. Yeah.
There was which if you're new to Drunken UX, we did an episode where we talked with
Jeff Chandler.
Thank you, Jeff Chandler.
I remember.
I'd have gotten there eventually. About Gutenberg specifically and all the excitement that's coming up with WordPress 5.0. Be sure to check that out if you haven't already. But that was a hot topic from what I heard from people I know who went.
I stand by my prediction. I still don't think we're going to see 5.0 this year. And I know there are some aggressive folks out there that are saying, like, we're going to have a beta in August. I don't think so.
There seems to be a lot of hesitation about, or like not lukewarm feelings, but just caution about Gutenberg.
Oh, sure. And
there should be. The commentary that I saw. Yeah,
there should be. There is an absolute right to be. I'm getting ready to actually build a new theme for my site, and I plan on building it from the ground up to support Gutenberg. So I'm going to use that as my way of teaching myself learning. There's a couple of these courses we've mentioned in that episode that I'm looking at going through myself just to kind of get geared up for it. But I tell you what, I'll make sure I'll toss a link back in this show since we're going to be talking about WordPress a lot. I'll leave a link to some of those Gutenberg resources too, because they're totally worth going and checking out. WordPress for me, and this is going to be true for I hope a lot of our listeners, that when you have one WordPress site, you tend to have two WordPress sites, and if you have two WordPress sites, you probably have 10.
If you give a programmer a WordPress site, he's probably going to want another WordPress site.
He's going to need another one for some reason.
Give him another WordPress site.
And there are many reasons for this. And maybe you just have one. If you just have one, the first half will be interesting to you. The second half, maybe not so much. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. Listen to the first half and then take off.
In the second half, we're going to speak only backwards.
Yes.
So even if you're not interested in the second half, you should tune in anyways for that.
That is when we initiate you into our cult of Satan.
Yes.
Through backward speak. WordPress, what we're wanting to talk about is how you manage WordPress, how you keep track of everything and keep things patched and up to date. And I know that maybe sounds straightforward and easy and boring on its face, but it isn't. And I think
Right.
there is a lot out there that people don't know about.
Right.
And so with WordPress, in 3.7 is when they brought in automatic updating.
Okay.
Up until that point, it was all about, okay, there's an update, you go, you download, the patch file, and you upload it to your site. Get on FTP, send the files over, click the buttons through the database updates and all that. If it's
Right.
plugins, same deal. You're downloading stuff and uploading it through they had the uploader in there, but it was all a manual process.
Right.
That was fine.
So when you say auto updating, you mean like it automatically applies the updates without your intervention, or do you just mean like you click the button and then it installs the update?
Both.
Okay.
Right. I apologize if anybody remembers differently. Prior to 3.7, it would alert you to updates, but there wasn't you didn't have the curl button to hit it and it would go download the patch file and install it automatically. That didn't exist. And so when I say automatically, I mean both things, like it blind update versus interactive update.
Gotcha.
And I reserve the right to be wrong on that because that was a fair amount of time ago now.
Right.
When they introduced this, and up until today, for core updates, and we're talking about when WordPress itself is updated, it will update itself for minor versions. And for WordPress, you can go into the configuration in your WP config file, or if you want to use filters or whatever, you can set whether it updates minor versions or major versions. By default, it will update minor versions automatically across the board. It won't do that for major versions. So like when 5.0 comes out, your site is not going to magically update to 5.0 normally. Right. That is not the default setting. You can set it to that and say, I want all core updates to come through. That will happen on development sites if you've got that turned on. But that is not the way it is set in normal environments.
It seems like having updates apply automatically definitely convenient. Like it's nice if you don't log into your WordPress site for a while because you don't have to worry about missing out security updates. But like it also seems, I don't know, if you have a lot of plugins or your complicated theme, it seems really risky.
Yeah. Well, to give you an idea, so by default, I said it updates minor versions, not major versions. 4.9.6, which just came out, is a kind of weird example of that not being true.
Okay.
So when 4.9.6 came out, it was a minor update, but it didn't update automatically for a lot of people.
Was that the GDPR update?
Right. So that was what they discovered, was some people had apparently improperly applied, the privacy update to their plugins. And so WordPress itself said, you know what? When a site dings us for an update, we're going to say there's an update, but we're not going to return the update file. And so people had to manually make that 4.9.6 upgrade. So I say that only to kind of wrap this discussion of the idea that minor updates happen automatically most of the time, normally. Major updates don't normally. And there are exceptions to both of those cases. So that's important. So like you say, as long as you are happy with that, and you can turn that off, that is an option, but by and large, letting minor updates come through automatically is usually a good idea for most people.
Yeah.
Unless you have tons of custom development that you're super worried about features being deprecated or anything like that, that's the only way I would really worry about core updates in that way.
Right.
Now, what you were talking about with plugins and themes and things like that updating automatically, there are two hooks. I'll make sure to leave a link to the documentation on the codex about how to do this. There are two hooks where you can say, you know what, update my themes automatically, update my plugins automatically. You can do that. There is a risk involved, certainly. And I'll explain momentarily. What I would say is there is a deeper way of invoking that, where you can create your own hook for the auto update for plugin or theme, and you can give it an array of things. So, for instance, if you've left, like I tend to leave, I delete like the 2015 and 2016 default themes.
Right.
I usually get rid of those. I don't want them. But I leave a default theme in case I need to like do something and I want to have a fallback.
Right.
So I leave like 2017 on there. You could make a hook in your theme that says, I'm going to auto update themes, and I only want to auto update the 2017 theme. And so it will take an array of names, and it will only do it to those. The other ones it will leave alone, and it will do that for themes or plugins. So if you have plugins that you use in a perfectly vanilla state that you're not worried about changes they're making, or it's,
always update this one.
Yeah, or it's a simple plugin that just has, you know, a real basic purpose in life, that you're like, you know what, I'm going to hit that update button every single time, then by all means, you can go in there.
Like the Hello Dolly plugin.
Oh, yeah. Everybody keeps Hello Dolly completely up to date. Yeah. When was the last time Hello Dolly got an update?
When's the last time it got used?
That's not what I asked. Okay, story time.
Yeah.
Because I say auto update on themes and plugins is risky. Here's why. And this is a true story. It's true as in beer. That I use Caldera forums. I think it's Josh Pollock, right, that develops that. Brilliant guy, fantastic tool. Also was on pretty much the bleeding edge of getting GDPR compliancy on his tool. So props to him for that. We were running Caldera on version 1531, and we've got a tool that uses it, that takes in user submitted data, and then it sends it off, and a person processes it, and things happen. Then the 154 update came. Because I am an awful human being, I did not read the change log. I didn't have auto updates turned on, but I might as well have, because I just was blindly updating. Every time an update came, I was just like, okay, keep going, whatever. And I hit the update button. Boom, 154. I go to bed. That was my first mistake. I wake up. That was my second mistake. I have an email from one of our offices that is the stakeholder in a tool that we built, and they're like, hey, our tool is broken. Like, you go in, you use it, and you get nothing out of it. And like, what? That shouldn't have happened. And so I go and I of course now do the thing I should have done at the start, which is I go back in. First off, I revert a backup, get back to the old version. I jump on my staging site, I retest everything, and I discover that in 154, he had to change a function that is used when parsing variables into a redirect URL, which for probably 99% of his users is not an issue. But for me, it happened to change the data we were sending in a super minuscule way that involved a space. Believe it or not, easy to take spaces out of strings, very hard to put them back where they belong. If you after the fact.
It's like the opposite of peeing in a pool.
So yeah, once the cake is baked, once the pee is in the pool, it's there. So I had to revert that and come up with a workaround and do all the things. And the lesson here is auto update would have made that way worse, because then I wouldn't have even hit a button. At least there I can blame myself a little bit. But
that was a minor version update, right?
It was 1531 to 154.
Yeah.
So
wow.
It was a minor change. I'm not even criticizing anything that they did. It was totally appropriate. It just happened that the way we implemented it and the way we were using the redirect module happened to create a scenario that broke our data. And I have myself to blame. I fixed the problem, and we've moved on. But it's easy, depending on how much custom development you're doing with plugins and themes, those minor updates, man. Because WordPress, I trust WordPress. I trust the Crew at Automatic and those guys. They keep stuff working. Even old code works for ages after it's stopped being supported.
Right.
Plugins and themes, I do not give that level of trust. So
most plugin and theme developers aren't getting paid to develop plugins and themes. So
yeah, very true. Caldera is a free plugin. There are paid components to it, but by default, it is a free plugin. So that's why I throw that. That's why I say it's risky to use that methodology. I would, however, recommend folks, if you do want to simplify your process, by all means, look into the auto update hooks and apply them to things that you can trust without question. Because that'll make your life a little bit easier. So that's one site, though.
Right.
Managing one site is easy because it's one site. It's the 1-2-in problem, right? The first time you do something, okay. The second time you do something, all right. But after that, you have to assume you have to do it many, many times.
Right.
And if you are somebody who works at a large company, if you're somebody who does a lot of freelancing or moonlighting, if you're somebody who works at a university, any of these things, odds are, and I joked, if you've got one WordPress site, you've probably got two. If you've got two, you probably got 10. Managing lots of them all at once is sort of this thing, and you've got to wrangle lots of logins, and maybe you have LastPass or 1Password or a utility that lets you help that. Okay, great. Not the point.
Right.
It's still a lot of logins that you do have to manage. You have to remember all of the sites. You have to remember if client X had you change the WP admin or WP login paths.
Well, I remember back in 2.x they had the WordPress MU, and then in 3.0 they rolled it into as multi-site.
Yeah.
Like you could enable it in the configs. Like what about, why not use that?
Okay. So that is a great option if you are hosting everything and controlling it. So if you are running a community website where you are going to allow your users to each have their own little blog, let's say,
or you're doing like student blogs just at your university, or whatever.
Or you've got a gaming site and you want people to be able to have game logs or whatever.
Sure.
That's designed. Multi-site is designed to be in a controlled environment where the whole system is in one silo. And
okay. Yeah, all right.
For a lot of people, if you've got a lot of clients, or a lot of companies, or a lot of anything, they may have different infrastructures. They may have different technical requirements. They have different backup requirements, and that kind of throws multi-site out the window. Because multi-site still has to run on one stack. It still has to conform to one model, even though the site, individual pieces of it could have different themes or different plugins. That creates a slightly different challenge. And we could probably do a whole episode just on multi-site and managing that. If anybody
but I see what you're saying. If you had if you were a reseller or just like a contractor, freelancer, private business, etc., that needed to manage a bunch of different clients with different domains, even, you wouldn't want to do multi-site for that. I can understand that.
Yeah, right. And if you think about it in terms like shared hosts, so Bluehost, HostGator, these folks, there's a reason why WordPress installs are one-click installs, but not multi-site installs, right? They're not bolting everybody onto the same file structure. They spin off your own. So same kind of deal there. Instead, what I recommend people look at, and there are a lot of tools for this, but there are resources that let you bulk manage WordPress websites, and there are a lot of them out there. And so my short list, and there are more than this, but the short list is MainWP, ManageWP, Infinite WP. Are you noticing a trend? Jetpack Manage.
Right.
And iThemes Sync. I don't know why iThemes decided to go with a different moniker or Jetpack, but there's this WP thing, whatever. They all are a similar tool. They do things differently. They have different features, but they all kind of have this idea of trying to allow a user to both handle maintenance and content and management tasks sort of in bulk in one place. So if you've got 10 sites, and let's keep it simple. Let's say you're using Yoast on all 10 of those sites, and they're using stock themes and nothing special, so you don't have auto update on themes turned on or something like that. Normal model, you have to go out and manually update Yoast on each one of those 10 sites. With this model, you could log into one of these tools, hit a button, and 10 sites all magically get updated on their plugin all at once.
Cool.
That is incredibly useful, and I think highly underutilized in the development community. And we'll talk about this coming up in the second half. My tool of choice is MainWP. Yours may be different. That's fine. These tools are not created equal. They do similar things, but they have, like, so for instance, they all do maintenance tasks, right? All of these tools will handle core updates, plugin updates, theme updates. I think pretty much every one of them has some kind of security or vulnerability scanner. They'll all help tie into taking backups of your sites and restoring backups of your sites.
Do they all need to be on the same server?
No, not at all.
Okay, so you basically just provide it with API access or whatever.
Right.
Do the thing. Okay.
And
cool.
I'm not going to speak deeply to the others. I have used myself ManageWP and iTheme Sync, but it has been a long time. And I haven't used Infinite WP. I haven't used Jetpack Manage. I know Jetpack Manage uses WordPress.com as like it's like where you go. MainWP, and I'll get into the technical side of this a little bit more later, but it uses a plugin on both sides that helps communicate. I believe the rest work in a similar fashion. And or you give them like an admin login and they tie into the API that way. I again reserve the right to be wrong because I don't use those. And I don't want to. I'm not gonna try to. I'm not. This is not about selling one product over another or anything like that.
Sure.
The other side of this is the content authoring, which comes into like whether you have to bulk push posts or users, which can be really important in like a corporate environment. Managing comments across blogs. Especially if you're on like some kind of big network of blogs or things like that. And some of these work better for that than others, and that's okay. MainWP, not a content-focused tool, in my opinion. Jetpack, a little bit better. It just depends on what you're trying to do. But these tools are designed to take this question and give you a solution, which is, how do I not multiply myself 10 times for all of these sites? How do I stay one person and scale? And or if I've got 20 clients or 50 clients or 100 clients, how do I make sure that I'm doing right by all of them without just turning on auto updates everywhere and breaking stuff occasionally?
Right.
So that's the thought, and that's what we want to talk about more coming up. Is specifically how, in my case, I'm going to talk to my experience on MainWP, how it works, why it works, and all of those thingamaboobly dobblers. Does that sound right? That sounds right.
Yes.
I think that sounds right. Not going to lie. Martini, strong drink. Guys, we're going to go fill up our glasses. Join us back in about 45 seconds. We're going to talk about MainWP and how a WordPress management tool can help you be more efficient. Come back. We'll be here. That's a joke from the start of the show. The Drunken UX Podcast is brought to you by our friends at NewCloud. Are you trying to build a case around an interactive map for your school, city, or business? NewCloud's interactive map platform gives you the power to make and edit a custom interactive map in just minutes. Their team of professional cartographers specialize in map illustrations and are ready to design a rendering to fit your exact needs. One map serves all your users' devices with responsive maps that scale and blend in seamlessly with your website. Visit them online to request a demo at nucloud.com/drunkenux. That's nucloud.com/drunkenux. Well, welcome back. We're glad you stuck with us. You are listening to the Drunken UX podcast. I am your host, Vesper Martini Michael Feenan.
I'm your co-host, Vesper.
Are you having trouble there?
Oh my gosh, Greg did not prepare me for how alcohol this drink is.
That is one way of putting it, I suppose. Alcoholic might be the other way of putting it.
The drink doesn't have a problem.
No, I have got a good buzz, and so I apologize to folks. This is what you tune in for. This is why we are Drunken UX. And
The second half is the party in the back. That's what it is. The mullet show.
Yes, yeah.
Business in the first half. Party.
We try to take things seriously, but in the end, well, you get what you get. That's why you're here, and I'm glad for it. And I say that with all love in my heart because I have been watching our podcast stats, and I'm thrilled with, after, 7 months now, how many folks are listening to us every week is
we have a non-zero number.
Kind of blowing me away. So
yeah, it's amazing.
Not going to complain. This half, we are talking about MainWP, and I should start this off with the common disclaimer. I don't know anybody at MainWP. They are not paying us anything for this, and I am not intending this to be a sales pitch for them necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
All of the tools I said before the break have a place, and one of the first points I'm about to make is going to be to take the time and research them on your own. I started out probably 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, with this problem. I had my site. I had a game site. I had a documentation site. I had like 3 different company sites. I had a sales site for another project. I had all these sites, and they were all WordPress. Everything was WordPress. And I was tired of trying to keep track of them manually and trying to keep up with, there was an update, I better go check, yada, yada, yada. And like so many people, some of those sites had probably 27 more plugins than they needed. And so there was a lot of, I'm exaggerating. But at any rate, they still had a lot of turnover and plugin updates. And so it's kind of like your phone. You pick up your phone every day and it's like, 7 apps updated. WordPress gets to feel very much like that. And so I started testing stuff out, and I looked at ManageWP. It is a perfectly good, beautiful product. I looked at iTheme Sync. I used iTheme Security, so I thought, you know what, I'll try them out. And I tried MainWP. iTheme Sync and ManageWP, good products. I have nothing bad to say about them. The thing that I preferred in this case, and this may not be true for other folks, is that MainWP it can be a self-hosted tool. It is literally just a WordPress plugin. Whereas iTheme Sync, ManageWP, InfiniteWP, these guys are managed services that you log into. Maybe that's what you want. For me, it also boiled down to security in other ways, in that I couldn't have a third party like that managing access to certain sites. And so by being able to self-host it, we could control all the access and security on that piece. That may be a selling point for you. Maybe it's not, and that's fine. But for me, that's what I really liked about it. You could take, and what I have done is I've taken MainWP and I have installed it in a VM locally. I've given it its own domain name and all of this in my hosts file, so it's easy to access in the browser. It's not just, localhost 8080 or something like that. But I installed a little lamp on a VM. I threw this, a plain vanilla, nothing WordPress install. I put MainWP on it, and that's what I use now when I log in, and I just use it locally. You could just as easily do this if you are a corporate developer and you have, a VPN and you have like an internal network and you can run it there where it's completely firewalled off. You could do it the exact same way where it's only accessible from inside your network, for instance, but it doesn't have to be in a VM.
Okay.
All it needs is WordPress. That's all it needs. You could install it on a site out in the wild. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Especially if it's not your site.
Yeah, it's just a plugin. And so what it does is MainWP takes a WordPress install and turns it into a management tool, basically.
Okay.
And it's got some options in it when you set it up. Like you can hide. For instance, I don't need, because it's just running in WordPress, but I'm doing nothing else with it, I don't need pages or posts or any of that. So it lets me hide all of that stuff away.
Nice.
And so I'm still logging in. It's still a WordPress system. But when I log in and drop in, it drops me right onto my management dashboard, which is super sweet.
Cool. Okay.
So that's...
So you set up one WordPress instance as kind of the command and control center, and then that one manages all the other child instances?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And
cool.
That is an important note as well, because you can't run multiple of these.
Right.
Like, you and another person can't both have a local install, both managing all the sites.
Right.
Bad things could happen just in general. If you're both trying to update something at the same time, who knows, at that point. But it is designed to run in WordPress, and if you need like multiple access, then go put it on, a protected server, somewhere. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it sits there and it does its thing. When I don't need it, I turn off the VM, and then it's completely and totally unavailable. Like, it can't be hacked. It can't be anything because it's not on.
That's really cool.
That's why I really like MainWP as opposed to these hosted services, which I don't know of any breaches that have occurred with ManageWP or iThemes or any of them.
Right.
And I'm sure that they take that highly seriously. And in the world of GDPR, we would know, in theory, very quickly if something happened. But that's that problem there, is that if there were a breach, if there was a problem, people know they can attack those services. And if they get access to that, then what happens?
The trove.
So there's a lot of value in knowing, we are control. And this is part of that discussion that we had on web security with Chris, was this idea of there's value in taking some of that responsibility into your own hands, because then you know what's there, as opposed to trusting somebody else and just hoping that they're good enough.
Right. I really like the idea of having, because you could set up some rather complicated and secure credentials between your child instances and the main WP in a VM. Yeah. And then if you spin it down, then, your individual instances are effectively more or less locked down. Some vulnerabilities aside.
Yeah. And the child instances, too, remember, even if your master goes down, your child instances know that they have been paired. Right. So somebody else can't come in with a new master and try to pretend and make a connection, because the child's going to say, no, we already have a guy in charge of us and it's not you. Certainly there are ways to get around that. That's not 100% immutable, but it's not 100% immutable no matter how you look at this. Like, if you are going to go this route, you do give up a certain percentage of security.
Right.
But the trade-off, I think, is highly advantageous and is not devalued by that risk.
Sure.
That's my opinion. And if anybody disagrees with me, I'd love to hear your argument on that. This is, so for me, I see this as a really good resource for your poor starting freelancer who's getting going, and everything they do is they find somebody who needs a $500 website,
Uh-huh.
and they spin it up. They buy a $50 premium theme and slap it on there and change the logo and the words. And they agree to keep it up to date for a year.
Sure.
This is perfect for those people. It's perfect for the individual who has a lot of personal sites that they have hobbies or do whatever. This is, for a lot of people, most of these products, their free tier is extremely good. And it's just a matter of figuring out which one's free options match best with your priorities.
So if someone had something like this configured and maybe the client wants to log into the admin panel, can they?
Sure. Yeah.
Can they log in with normal credentials?
Yeah.
This is just like an additional layer that's added over top.
Right.
Like a visor almost.
This does not remove existing management.
Okay.
It's a shadow admin basically.
Yeah.
It is doing the same thing like MainWP in this case. You install the parent plugin on your admin side, you install the child plugin, and then it uses that communication layer to run all the hooks through the child plugin.
Right.
And it needs, when you set it up, it needs an admin account so that it can access all of the various hooks and things that it needs to access.
Right.
Because some of those things aren't available if you aren't an admin. Like, even something basic like content authoring, let's say. If you give it an account that only has editor permissions, then you can't publish content. And that's a problem. Unless, for some reason, you want that limitation. But then you probably don't need this tool. But yeah, it sits on top. It doesn't replace. It doesn't, it's not exclusive to anything else. And I believe, and I'm going to asterisk, I believe that is true for every single one of those tools. I don't know of any of them that flat out like break the back end in terms of saying you have to go through the management system now.
But this one like kind of checked all the boxes for you though, as far as what you were needing.
Yeah. So with MainWP, what I needed was a tool that let me do maintenance. I needed something that let me keep themes up to date, because we had a couple sites that were running premium themes, for instance. Keep plugins up to date. I wanted to be able to manage my backups and do it easily for all of them.
The managing backups, is it like database backups too, or is it just like files?
And in my case, there is, if I may be misspeaking here, and I don't have the opportunity to check myself. MainWP, I think, does have an internal backup utility, if my memory is right, or up to date at the very least. But it's a rudimentary thing. I happen to use Updraft. I like Updraft. It works for my needs. And again, it's like one of those things that the free version of it is incredibly useful for pretty much everybody. And what I'll get into here in a few with MainWP, there is an additional extension for it that is an Updraft backup plugin. Like, they know Updraft exists, and they have written their own extension that brings in all of that functionality into MainWP. So that when I'm in my admin console, I can go in and see the exact MainWP, Updraft panel, and download all of my backup files, like, right in my thing. I can trigger backups. I can say, when I add a new site to my panel, I want to apply to it a certain rule set for my backups. I want a daily backup of the database and the files, and I want them sent to a certain, endpoint or whatever. You can set up like a default standard that gets applied when you add a site to it. So I was all about maintenance. I was not about content. None of my sites shared anything from a content standpoint. None of my sites shared users. I didn't have to worry about any of that. I was thinking very much about grunt work. I was thinking about the stuff that makes the site go. And I wanted a tool that really excelled at that also checked that early box of, I need it to be secure and I need to have full control over it.
Right.
And the others just didn't do that. They failed that first mile marker for me. So
Cool.
I can't help that.
I haven't done WordPress admin in a while, but if I ever did it, these kinds of tools sound really cool. I definitely wish I had them back when I did do WordPress.
Yeah.
Many years ago.
Well, and there's a whole world of options when you start thinking about like the WordPress CLI and things like this that, you could script all kinds of things if you are really super clever. I'm thinking more about folks that are still figuring all this out and getting themselves up to speed. This is...
Maybe they're good with like theme editing or plugins or something.
Yeah, right.
But not necessarily like the back-end DevOps stuff.
This is literally, it's two pieces. Install a parent plugin on your main site, install a child plugin on the site you manage. You go in, it gives you a code that you copy over. You can, it's got some other settings. You can restrict it to HTTPS. You can have a htaccess stuff going on, so it can get through, that process just fine.
Sure.
But the whole idea behind MainWP was that it was working hard to extend what we already did in WordPress. And I loved that about it. That for me was like the thing that sold me at the end of the day. And the fact that it didn't cost me anything. I set it up and I was able to play with it and figure it out and decide on my own terms whether or not it was going to work for me or not.
If you did want to get the premium version, is the premium version expensive or?
So there is no.
And again, this isn't an advertisement for them.
Yeah, no, and that's it's a fair question, and this applies across the board. It's not that they have a premium version; it's that they charge for premium extensions.
Okay, so if you have special needs for your websites,
yeah. So like with Updraft, for instance, they have a basic Updraft plugin or Updraft extension for MainWP. That's free. But they have an advanced one that involves other. I don't know because I don't use it. I don't know off the top of my head what the I don't know what the advantages to it are.
Sure.
But that's how they make their money. That's how they have built their business model, and where they really are excelling in that area are things like they have bulk article uploaders.
Okay.
They have things that control branding on the back end. So if you are a like a freelancer or something and you want a fully like self-branded back end, they have a tool that lets you do that.
Cool.
And they're and I don't know, again, the other services may have changed their models. Folks like ManageWP and Infinite WP, their pricing for adding on some of the tools that like backup tools or analytics tools that I was looking at, their price scaled up really fast for me. MainWP, like their base cost on a lot of their plugins is $39.
Wow. Like one shot, one payment.
Yeah, I think.
Cool.
Maybe I'm right. I don't know. I don't pay for a single thing. I'm able to do everything with free stuff from them. So, but yeah, as far as I know, it's $39. You buy it. You set up an account with them so it remembers you. I don't think that's an annual license. Again, please correct me. I'm gonna send this to the MainWP people when we've put this out, so they are free to correct me as well if they hear me say anything wrong. But yeah, as far as I know, when you pay for an extension, you get the extension. Maybe wrong.
Right.
But like I use Updraft. I said that. I'm using what's called the Clean and Lock extension, which lets me lock down my backend so that it looks exactly like just the MainWP admin area with no other stuff.
Okay.
And I'm using their vulnerability scanner, which is super cool. The WP scan vulnerability database?
Yes.
That is tied into their vulnerability scanner, and it will check against all of your sites for any known logged vulnerabilities in any of your plugins, any of your themes, any of the core. It's free.
That's amazing.
It's super fantastic. And I know there are other plugins that can do this as well, but again, you can do this in one place using this tool, which is invaluable to me as a developer at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the vulnerability checker as a free plugin is kind of mind-blowing to me in a way. Like, that's something that they could easily be charging for.
That's one of the more, I think, critical features of WordPress is the security aspect, and having something like that at your disposal for free even is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that's not, again, I came at this from the angle of I need a management system.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other systems, they have that same tool, but it is part of their paid infrastructure.
Yeah.
So they all, and this is why I say these other tools, some of them are better. Like if you got into Jetpack and Infinite WP, some of those are better at user management and content authoring. If you want to manage lots and lots of comments, if you do comment moderation across a dozen sites, MainWP is probably not the best choice for you. That's not what it's particularly good at, but the others can be.
Right.
It's just a matter of kind of stopping and evaluating what makes sense at that point.
Right.
And for me, you set this up. I mentioned I run an Ubuntu VM, install vanilla WordPress, install parent plugin. In this case, it's only accessible to me locally. If you set this up in internal infrastructure, make, whether you're behind a firewall, VPN, whatever, a few tweaks, and only you and your development team can access it. Whereas anybody can get at manage WP. If they happen to, break a weak password on your team.
Right.
And that's not a knock on them. That's, just the nature of any kind of service on
centralized.
Yeah, it's only as strong as the weakest link.
Sure.
And so there's a lot to like and get advantage of out of that. I check my install once a day. I get up, I get to the office, I log in, and I see what updates do I have. I look at my change logs religiously now. I check my change logs. I make sure nothing is messed up there. In this case, it'll even confirm whether or not I've ran a backup before I run my updates.
Nice.
That's super nice. So that even if I do screw everything up, I can hit a button and restore it all. I have had some instances, and I know, and I want to be a little even-handed here. MainWP has had problems for me in the past with losing connections. I don't know why, but it has lost connection with my child sites, and I've had to reboot that connection, so to speak, which involves going to the child site, shutting down the plugin, starting it back up, and reinitializing it in my admin panel. But outside of that, man, it's really helped me from keeping track of just all the things, especially for anything that is broad. And I mentioned Yoast early on. Yoast updates a lot. Updraft updates a lot. WordPress minor updates come out frequently, and if you're somebody who doesn't run minor updates automatically, super great for pushing all of those updates out at once. Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking on the fly here. It alerts you to things that might be abandoned. You can set a threshold where it's like, if my theme or my plugin has not been updated in a year, flag it as a possibly abandoned tool so I can see if I need to go get something else.
That's really cool. I've run into that a lot with gems while doing Rails, where you you're using something and you have to always check how long ago was this updated.
Yeah, and
that often matters.
When you have those dependencies, it can be super. And with WordPress plugins are getting to where it's a very sharp curve, right? There are lots and lots and lots of plugins that have hundreds of thousands of installs.
Right.
And the tail is super long, though, on plugins that have 100 installs, 10 installs. But the people who rely on those can rely on them heavily in some cases. And so it can be really useful to know, do I need to fork that and go do my own development? Do I need to contact the author and see what's up?
Yeah.
Knowing that something is abandoned can be useful. I had this problem anecdotally recently. My blog, a friend of mine was trying to get to an article I'd written on Tag Manager, and he was like, I don't think you put these butts on your page. And I looked, and sure enough, I had a injection that was exploited in a abandoned theme that was putting a JavaScript on the page that took it over because I'm an idiot.
And put butts on them?
Put butts. I mean, like it was an advertising like takeover, but
okay.
The screenshot was like how to get butts for the perfect butt for your man.
So like posteriors,
yes,
not the conjunction.
Oh yeah, no, like rear ends, in thongs. I briefly imagined
a whole bunch of like BUT just all over your page in random places.
I mean, I guess that's a way to discourage somebody from running old
I gotta
stuff.
say, this Vesper Martini is one hell of a drink.
At any rate, that's been my experience, and I'm happy to answer questions. If folks have anything, that they want to know about using MainWP in the wild, I'm happy to answer that. This is an episode that sort of talks to my experience directly with it. I am an advocate. I consider myself a consumer advocate for the product. It's good. It has done well by me. The other tools are extremely good as well. This one just happened to fit my needs, and I wanted to celebrate that. I think that was worth letting people know and showcasing the advantage. Because people have a lot of sites to manage, so
right. And like we said before, MainWP is not sponsoring this, but if they would like to, we have 3 open spots.
We can sell you an advertising spot and go from there.
Totally.
At any rate, I have a martini sitting here to finish. Hey, Greg. I
almost didn't finish mine tonight.
No, Greg, I know you're listening somewhere out there. I commend you, actually. I apologize for not having any Lillet to mix with it, but I think I've got it sorted out well enough. And
cheers to that, man. That was a good call.
That is it's a good pace yourself drink, because we're going to end this at the right time, to say the least.
Yes, indeed.
The Drunken UX Podcast is brought to you by our friends at NewCloud. NewCloud is an industry-leading interactive map provider who has been building location-based solutions for organizations for a decade. Are you trying to find a simple solution to provide your users with an interactive map of your school, city, or business? Well, NewCloud's interactive map platform gives you the power to make and edit a custom interactive map in just minutes. They have a team of professional cartographers who specialize in map illustrations of many different styles and are ready to design an artistic rendering to fit your exact needs. One map serves all of your users' devices with responsive maps that are designed to scale and blend in seamlessly with your existing website. To request a demonstration or to view their portfolio, visit them online at newcloud.com/drunkenux. That's nucloud.com/drunkenux.
Well, thanks for listening tonight for our discussion about MainWP and other WordPress management tools. I sure learned a lot as someone who hasn't used WordPress much in the last year or so.
I know you Ruby people and whatever. I'm sorry. Tell me again, what content management system do you use?
I don't use any content. I'm like I'm in the back room. I'm in the part of the programming that doesn't have Windows. That's both literally and figuratively.
That's not a humble brag, people. So, let me tell you about where you can find us. If you want to track us down, come to Facebook, come to Twitter. We are at /drunkenux. We would love to hear from you guys, especially about this particular topic. I would love to know if you've used MainWP, if you're using, whether it's Managed WP, Infinite WP, Jetpack, any of these others, what you like about them, what you find particularly useful for your situation. Did we say anything wrong about any of these as well? Let us know, and we want to be able to share that. So we will have, of course, there are comments in the show notes. Hit us on Twitter, Facebook, /drunkenux. Do those things. We also have Slack. Slack is super boring
Slack's the best.
and corporate and all of these things, but we do have it. So it is, if you go to drunkenux.com/Slack, it will send you right to where you need to go and do
But
those
Slack,
things.
Slack has GIFs and emoji. You can't go wrong with that.
And well, I mean,
That's how they get you, right? They get you in on all the pictures.
IRC had that if you were running the right client. Damn it.
Couldn't you like play like on the MIRC client like /wave and then the wave name, and it would play it for anyone who had it?
Yep. Oh yes.
I remember doing that.
I was there. I remember these days. I know that Slack and Discord are. I know whose shoulders they're standing on. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, be sure to also check out a real-time overview this Wednesday, where we will be Michael will be discussing something really interesting and exciting and current, and I don't even know what it's going to be. It's a mystery every week, like the Boot Mystery Box.
He says it like I'm making it up on the fly. I am.
He doesn't. He doesn't have an agenda. He just riffs it every week. The week that I filled in was just I don't even know how you do it.
At any rate, folks, we're glad you listened. We hope you have found this useful, and let us know. We'll be back with a real-time overview. We've got build process coming up in August. We've got all these things. And, guys, I only got one thing left, I guess, and that is to tell you to, I guess, keep your, personas close, but your users closer.
Yes.
I had to do it once.
To be